Breaking news exclusively from Blue Eye Media. And now from our global friendly partners.
We have breaking news this morning. Donald Trump is not ruling out running for a third term in office. And not just that, he's actually publicly talking about how he could do it. I've said for a long time that we shouldn't just laugh off when Trump or Steve Bannon or any of his allies say that he could serve a third term, that he will serve a third term. And this is why. Today, just in the past hour or so, when speaking with reporters on Air Force One during his East Asia swing, Donald Trump refused to rule out serving a third term in office. That would be obviously unconstitutional, but he has gone a step further this morning and is now publicly musing about how he would do it. And I want to break it all down for you because this is not a laughing matter. And this is something very serious that if any other president was suggesting, there would be serious concern from media and those in Congress, both allies and adversaries of the president. But because this media sane washes what Donald Trump says and does as just Trump being Trump, we don't get headlines and a ton of coverage about it. So this morning, Donald Trump was asked on Air Force One essentially whether he could serve a third term. He refused to rule it out, saying that he would, quote, love to do it. He boasted of his record poll numbers. He did acknowledge that he hasn't considered any legal fight over his eligibility. He hasn't officially considered whether he's going to do it. He hasn't thought about it, but that he would love to do it. I want you to take a moment and watch this with me.
I have my best numbers ever. It's very terrible. I have my best numbers. If you read it, am I not ruling it out? You'll have to tell me. All I can tell you is that we have a great group of people, which they don't.
That is Donald Trump clearly saying that he would love to run for a third term, that he has these great poll numbers. And I mean, that's not necessarily new from Trump. He has these Trump 2028 hats that he gives out, whatever, but he has gone farther today. Now he is talking about how he could do it. He claimed that he could legally serve as vice president of the United States, run as vice president of the United States, and then eventually become president, but called that plan, quote, too cute, and said that the people wouldn't like that.
One theory on how you might try to serve a third term is that you could run as the vice president.
Yeah, I'd be allowed to do that.
Is it the White House, or the White House counsels, or your legal position?
No, you'd be allowed to do that, but I wouldn't do it. And I think it's too cute. Yeah, I would rule that out because it's too cute. I think the people wouldn't like that. It's too cute. It's not, it wouldn't be right.
Yeah, he says that he's not going to do it. But he's kind of testing the waters, so to speak, about whether or not he would want to do this and whether or not this is something that's even possible. The 22nd Amendment of the United States Constitution prohibits a president for serving 3 terms. That is clear as day. But it is not something that the United States Supreme Court has ever considered because it's not something that any president in American history who had already served 2 terms wanted to challenge to try to serve a 3rd term. So there is a hypothetical scenario where Donald Trump forces his way to a Republican nomination. There is nothing unconstitutional about him getting another nomination, for example, trying to get his name on the ballot and then essentially daring this United States Supreme Court to kick him off the ballot. We don't know what he's going to do. We don't know why he's even publicly discussing this, but this is not a laughing matter. This is not something that we can just discount, right? Because if Joe Biden did this, if Barack Obama did this, if George Bush said any of this, the mainstream media would be running it like a wildfire, and justifiably so, because a president of the United States is openly talking about defying the United States Constitution, openly talking about running for a 3rd term in office or serving a 3rd term in office. And it comes at a time where media is really sane-washing what Donald Trump is doing just because it's, quote, Trump being Trump. And we now have a new report from Natalie Korak that CNN's chief, Mark Thompson, privately met with Donald Trump at the White House to discuss CNN's new streaming platform. But he then agreed and urged staff to, quote, ease up on coverage of Trump's East Wing demolition. Let that sink in. The CNN chief goes to the White House, meets with the president, and then tells staff to just ease up on their coverage of the White House demolition to build Donald Trump's ballroom. I'm kind of shocked at what I'm kind of reading and how I'm reporting this at this point. And it just shows that independent media has never been so important. So please consider subscribing to support my work or sending a one-time donation via Venmo to Aaron-Parnas. We're building something that has more views than CNN, that is breaking echo chambers, reaching Republicans, Democrats, and independents. And right now, what we're seeing is corporate media kind of selling out to the White House, all while this White House discusses potentially unconstitutional actions by the President of the United States. And it is a time where we need an independent media now more than ever. So let's just break that quickly down. CNN's chief meets with Donald Trump in the White House, agrees to ease up coverage of the East Wing teardown. Then Donald Trump now publicly talks about running for a third term in office. Media isn't really covering it like they should. I mean, this is the world we are living in. Now, that's not the only news Donald Trump made on this East Asia swing so far. He actually told reporters for the first time that he received an MRI during a recent visit to the Walter Reed Medical Center. He said that his results were, quote, perfect. He declined to explain why he got an MRI. An MRI is not a routine scan that people get when they go for a physical. It's an advanced imaging scan. And so it's the first time we're learning about this MRI. It wasn't in the doctor's report that was previously released. So we need more transparency from the White House of why the president received this MRI. In addition, we learned that essentially Donald Trump is mocking AOC as, quote, low IQ, boasting about the cognitive tests he took at Walter Reed, suggesting that she should try to pass them, saying that the first questions were simple, like identifying a tiger, elephant, and a giraffe. He further said that the United States profited from Argentina's recent election because, quote, the bonds have gone up, adding that the election made a lot of money for the United States. Remember, we bailed out Argentina, sent $40 billion. Well, Javier Milei, who's the right-wing personality and president in Argentina, actually won. His party won in elections after the bailout. Trump criticized Canada as one of the most difficult countries to deal with, accusing it of running a, quote, fake ad against him, and saying that officials apologized and agreed to remove it, but let it air for another 2 nights during the World Series. We'll see if trade negotiations begin again. The CDC's vaccine advisory system has all but collapsed after layoffs of all ACIP support staff and RFK Jr.'s replacement of independent vaccine advisors with anti-vaccine activists. Senator Rand Paul broke with fellow Republicans, condemning Donald Trump's airstrikes off of Venezuela, calling them, quote, extrajudicial killings, arguing that Congress received no evidence or authorization for the attacks, which have now killed 40 people accused of drug trafficking with no due process. And finally, folks, Hurricane Melissa has intensified into a very strong and dangerous Category 5 hurricane, threatening Jamaica with catastrophic flooding, landslides, and winds that are now at 160 miles per hour, potentially even going higher. It is a very dangerous situation for the people of Jamaica, and I would just urge you all to join me in prayer for the people of Jamaica in this moment, because it is a very scary time. I will continue to provide you updates as always throughout the day, so like, comment, share, and subscribe to support my work and to spread this video around. It is important, and I will see you soon for more.
Follow Blue Eye Media for exclusive insights and breaking news sources from global-friendly outlets that you'll never get from the mainstream cable TV and antenna radio or satellite outlets. Learn how to play the flute of the world and learn the real facts.